Thank you very much. Good to be here. Good to have people on the web as well. I have two ideas in terms of what I will present to you today. One is, first of all, let me show you this one. My name is Eric Kidman. I'm the CEO of NeuroVive since about 3 years back. I will present two things for you today. One is our updated strategy, namely our focus on primary mitochondrial diseases, and the reason for that is that we have a high unmet medical need in this area, and we are also utilizing the advantages of these diseases being orphan drugs, and I'll come back to that as well. The second part of my presentation will be around our core programs and milestones related to that. So in terms of our core programs then, primary mitochondrial diseases, we have two programs. That is KL1333, which is in clinical trials. The second clinical trial is ongoing. 354 is a preclinical program moving into clinical program next year. And then we have two partnering programs. One is our Neurostat program for traumatic brain injury. This program has recently received an IND, so it's ready to start clinical trials in the US. It also has a fast track status and support of its clinical study program by the FDA and EMA. We're looking for partners for that program as well. In our first patient trial, which we reported recently, we had a pharmaceutical signal, and that program is because of that of high interest. Our 556 program is in preclinical stage, and we have the documentation we believe necessary to out-license that one as well, and out-licensing discussions are ongoing. We're listed on the Nasdaq Stockholm Stock Exchange, a market cap currently about 270 million. This is a summary of our updated strategy, a focus on the primary mitochondrial diseases, and in addition to the high unmet medical need, then the orphan drug possibilities, being taking programs faster to the market at a less cost, and also with a higher likelihood of actually succeeding. And once on the market, the prices on average is some 5 times higher. We have a network operational model, so we have a very focused internal group working with external experts and resources when we actually need them, and in that way we can work in a very cost-effective way. We have the intention also to build a very focused organization when it comes to marketing and distribution when we get closer to the market. And the opportunity for a small company of our size is obviously to be in this orphan drug space where these type of diseases, primary mitochondrial diseases, are treated by very few super specialists. As an example, in Sweden, we have the specialists at Karolinska, only a few there, and likewise in Sahlgrenska in Gothenburg. So we're focusing on the primary mitochondrial diseases. These are represented by KL1333, which is one disease group, 354 another, and then we have a couple of earlier programs. I would like to also point at the collaboration we have with BridgeBio in the US, who have started a subsidiary around molecules that they have licensed from us for one particular disease, Elhon, which affects the eye and gives rise to blindness. In addition to that, and the reason for why we have focused recently is progress in our portfolio. So we have too wide a portfolio to actually be able to take the programs further into development by ourselves. Hence the focus on the primary mitochondrial diseases. In terms of medical need then, these diseases are very severe. There are no alternative treatments. As an example, for Leigh disease, the average life expectancy is less than 5 years. Another disease that we are focusing on is MELAS, or the mutation 3243A to G, less than 35 years. If you look at quality of life, this is SF36, one very commonly used quality of life instrument. On the y-axis, you have percent, and that is 100% when you're completely healthy and happy. Obviously, in the ordinary population, you have people with handicaps, diseases, and so on. So the red line is not 100%. But what is very obvious that in this population, which actually are less sick than many of these patients with primary mitochondrial disease, there's especially a lower quality of life when it comes to physical function. For these patients, 3243 mutation, there is a prevalence of some 3.5 out of 100,000. The most common symptoms are fatigue, exercise intolerance, myopathy, diabetes, and deafness, cardiomyopathy, and what's a hallmark of this disease is lactic acidosis. Lee syndrome is another disease that we're looking particularly on. The incidence is some 2.5 out of 100,000 of live death. Typically, the patients get sick at 1 year or 2 years after birth, and they have a life expectancy of a couple of years in addition to that, with very, very severe symptoms, with inabilities to walk and talk, with severe symptoms from other organs as well, leading to blindness and hearing difficulties, and also affecting kidney and the heart. Looking at the function of mitochondria, translating energy in food and oxygen into ATP, you find the basis for what's the problem with these type of patients. Normally you produce NAD in the respiratory chain, the very complex protein chain that leads to ATP production and energy that the cell needs to survive. When the mitochondria are not functioning properly due to various types of mutations, less NAD+ is produced and ATP, the energy source. And our programs are designed to actually help in different ways. The KL1333 program will modulate the levels of NAD+, would actually increase the levels of NAD+. And NAD+ is a very important coenzyme in the mitochondrial biogenesis. Normally, mitochondria are turned over and new are produced as needed. This will actually rectify this, and we have shown in our experimental models that mitochondrial mass is increased by our drug. 354 is an energy substitution and will rectify the energy production by bypassing the mutations which are most commonly in the first step of the respiratory chain. Key milestones for our program: we have orally available drugs that are disease modifiers. We've done the first clinical trial for KL1333, and we're now in the second clinical trial, where we've done the single ascending dose with food effects, multiple ascending dose in healthy volunteers ongoing, and in the beginning of next year we will start the first patient studies with the aim of moving into an efficacy trial for KL1333 next year. For 354, again, an orally available drug, disease modifying. We have preclinical proof of concept, and we're doing additional dose response studies in experimental models. And we're in parallel preparing this program to move into the clinical development as well next year. So in terms of the competitive landscape we're operating in, it is quite limited. If we're looking at direct competitors, those are in blue. Stealth is ahead of us, and they have a phase 3 readout by the end of this year. They have a membrane stabilizing compound for one set of these type of patients with mitochondrial myopathy. But in addition to that, there are a couple of programs that are not looking very promising right now. So our main competitors are MitoBridge and Reneo, which have an approach also leading to increased mitochondrial mass. In terms of our programs, we are sort of head-to-head. That was my program, and time is out.
Perfect timing. Thank you so much, Erik.